Welcome to the Art of Listening to Your Body podcast. My name is Dr. Jinong and I'm your host. I'm a cathartic release therapist, professionally trained as an osteopath, psychosomatic therapist, Western acupuncturist, and herbalist. I'm fascinated by the mind-body connection and how your physical body is a manifestation of your emotional state. I help people get unstuck from their chronic pain, whether it be physical or emotional, and live the life they truly desire, grounded in values and driven by purpose. My aim is to create awareness to the underlying emotions behind pain, injury, and disease in the body, as well as behavioural dysfunctions and mental imbalances that present. I do this using a unique blend of Eastern and Western philosophies and a good dose of intuition. Join me to learn more about the story of your body, what different issues may indicate, how to release emotions so that you can prevent problems, as well as inspiring pain story interviews. Hello, everybody. I have a couple of things to share or celebrate with you before I get into today's topic, which is about dreams, nightmares, and night terrors. And I'll be sharing my perspective. I wanted to let you know before I dive into that just about a couple of things that have been happening in the background that are really exciting for me, and I always love to celebrate. If you caught the episode where I was talking about the Pivot series, I was super excited to put out a 5-day masterclass for my practitioner and healer friends out there. And it was a really amazing experience sharing about my journey very openly and honestly down to the money and the figures, from transitioning from being a hands-on practitioner, an osteopath, working in a clinic, to transitioning full-time into the online space over the last 18 months. So it was great. There was about 8 hours of conversation all up over that period of time. If you did miss it, or if you came to it and you only managed to catch a few of the replays, this has been repurposed and divided up into a mini course, because I do get asked by a lot of people. They email me or they message me and they're like, where do I start? And I can't answer that in an email or in a short paragraph. As I said, this was 8 to 10 hours actually of me speaking and answering people's questions very honestly about the transition and many of the things that I had to make into the online space. So things like tapping into the field of possibility, changing my perspective, and talking about impact and income. So if you are a practitioner or a healer and you are curious, or even if the online space isn't working for you, then I would love to share my story, of which there is a lot of strategy and suggestions in there. I will pop the link in the podcast notes so that you can go and find that. So you can purchase it now. And as I said, there's loads of information. And if you do, just let me know how you find it, because it gives you a really good taster of what is possible. Because right now around the world, and I know a lot of my friends are making big transitions in their lives. And then I also just wanted to celebrate. So this is very practitioner focused, but I will get into the dreams, the nightmares, and the terrors, is that my Emerge Mastermind has launched. It's taken off. And this is a 12-month mastermind for practitioners and healers who are really serious about moving into the online space, making the online space work for them if they're already there, and really valuing their services and offering their gifts to the world. So if you are a practitioner or healer listening to this, then I will also put the link for the Emerge Mastermind in the podcast notes. You do need to apply for this. And then I will invite you on a call just to make sure that you are the right fit, because we will be working together for 12 months. And we have the most amazing mix of 10 practitioners on this training, physio, some naturopaths, body workers, dietitians, a doctor, and gut health psychologist. So these are all amazing women so far that I get to work with. It might become a female exclusive group, who knows, but we've already had our first call and I can just feel the energy of this group, and there's going to be big changes for these 10 people. You can enroll at any time and then, just go to the link, apply, and we can have a chat if this is something that you're curious about. All right, so very practitioner focused, but this is about dreams, nightmares, and night terrors. I shared this with my release group that is almost halfway through. And this is the group where anyone can come and join and learn how to process the emotions that are being stored in their body and holding them back from living life, or these emotions are manifesting in undesirable ways. So it's been really cool. But I am redoing this from scratch because I feel like I'm speaking to a slightly different audience about the dreams, the nightmares, and the night terrors. So there's a few things that I'll go into with this, but dreams usually aren't an issue for people, but there is a certain personality type, or I use Ayurvedic doshas to type people and understand how they're going to work with me. And there is a particular type known as the Vata, or those who have a large amount of Vata in them, that will have a lot of vivid dreams. And I have to say, their dreams tend to be very symbolic, but sometimes they can freak people out. But for the rest of you who have dreams, where I get really interested and then advised to do the release process to process your emotions, is when your dreams become cyclical. And I'll talk a little bit about why we have the dreams, the nightmares, and the night terrors as well. So I'm interested in dreams that become cyclical, and dreams are not always necessarily represented in a very literal way. Sometimes it can be symbolic, and it can be useful to have somebody to actually go and interpret your dreams for you on another level. Now, for the nightmares, usually these are a little bit more freaky and very unpleasant. And again, you can have cyclical nightmares. Now, the night terrors, this can affect adults and children, but it does mainly affect children. And the difference that I would classify with nightmares and night terrors is that a nightmare or a dream, you can wake someone up from it. But in a night terror, usually it's full blown, and there's a lot of verbalization, crying, screaming coming out, and it's as if the person's awake and they might have their eyes open, but there is no way of waking them up from this night terror. And it's important for someone who lives with a kid or your partner or another adult in the house who has night terrors that you also empty out your own emotional cup, because it can feel pretty full on and you can feel quite helpless when you can't wake that person up. And usually one of my suggestions is that you just sit there with them and you just hold the space for them throughout the night terror, which is a little bit, they're not the same, but it's like holding space for a kid having a tantrum rather than trying to fix it or put a lid on it or anything like that. So the thing that really vivid and cyclical dreams, nightmares, and night terrors have in common is that they often happen, or they will happen, when you're asleep. So this is where I talk a lot about feminine and masculine energy. The daytime, when we're awake, we're doing our work and we're getting busy, is masculine energy. It's light, the sun is shining, we're using our brains, maybe we're being physical. So it's a very active period of time of the day. And there are all sorts of polarities in life and in nature and in the universe. And the polarity of daytime, or masculine energy in this case, would be nighttime, or feminine energy. Feminine energy is when we drop more into being passive, the rest and digest phase. It's when we're sleeping and everything's recuperating. Now, some of you will not sleep very well. So there's this imbalance of being very masculine, doing active during the day, and there isn't enough recovery to compensate for that. So what must go up must come down as well. And I often talk about this with the emotional spectrum, is that anxiety, depression aren't bad, but it's not amazing to sit in anxiety all the time or depression all the time. You can go into peaks of anxiety and you can come back down, and you can go down into depression and then come back up. And this in part is emotional regulation. So just like masculine energy daytime, we also need a little bit of the nighttime. And this is the rest, recuperation, and the feminine phase. So if you've got this imbalance going on and you don't get enough of the feminine space, the rest, the digest, the recuperation, this is when the body's tolerance levels will often go down to a number of things. Tolerance levels go down emotionally, tolerance levels go down physically, and our tolerance to external pathogens or our immune system, its tolerance goes down as well. So nighttime rest, feminine energy in this specific example is really good to help your body repair. So I often say that when we are resting and we're sleeping, our body is dealing with all the knocks and bumps that we have that we don't even realize. It is maybe during the day, we've done some training, we've gone to the gym, or we've just been very physically active. The body might be a little bit inflamed, but at nighttime, it deals with and it processes the inflammation. During the day, we get exposed to lots of people, pathogens, viruses, bacteria, and we have an immune system, which means that we don't always have to get everything that we're exposed to. So at nighttime, our immune system is really active, and it is fighting these external pathogens that we come and cross paths with. And that's often why when we feel like, oh gosh, I'm getting sick, we feel tired. So many people ignore that. But if you can sleep, often your immune system can fight it. And nighttime, this feminine energy is also the time when we process our emotions, if we haven't processed them during the day. So a big part of my work is teaching people how to process emotions from many events, life experiences, and traumas that they've had over often many decades, to process the emotions that haven't been expressed before, and to then improve their emotional metabolism so that they learn to process very quickly, if not in the moment, as soon as it's happened, very soon after, not decades later. Because when it all gets stored, this is when it manifests in its undesirable ways. So dreams, nightmares, and night terrors, I see it as your subconscious trying to bring up what you have suppressed. Now, if you stay really busy during the day and you know that stuff is bothering you from the past, or new encounters are bothering you or triggering you, and you don't process these and you hope that you're just going to sleep it off and wake up the next day and it'll be gone. Rarely does that happen. But if you don't process your emotions, they get stored. And then all of a sudden when the body stops, this is usually when it can come to the surface. So another brief analogy for you is that when people, and this is very common, is they work hard, they finish big contracts, they work to a deadline, and they just keep on telling themselves, I've just got to push, I've just got to get through this. And then in 4 weeks, I can go and have my holiday. And then all of a sudden they get on their holiday, they rest, and then they're nailed with the flu for like the whole 2 weeks. And that's because it's like going to sleep and all of a sudden the body's like, woohoo, everything that you suppressed and ignored during the day, all that 4 weeks of work, now I'm safe. Now I can give you the onslaught of everything that you suppressed. So if you're really busy during the day and you're not addressing things, you're distracting yourself, you're, going to the gym and you're like pumping it out, or you're going for a run, like exercise is good, but you've always got to look at the reason you're doing it. Are you doing it because you're avoiding the emotions? Because if you can sit with them, it's really beneficial. So you have all this stuff happen during the day and stuff built up from the past, and then all of a sudden you go to sleep and the body plays up on you. And it can be that you get these cyclical dreams. And sometimes they are literal, but sometimes they are very symbolic dreams that have another meaning, and it's a way of your body, your subconscious, trying to communicate with you. Same with the nightmares that don't necessarily have to be cyclical, but often there is a bit of a theme around it. And the night terrors too. So what are you not processing during the day? And therefore, why is it that it's only when your body stops that this comes up? And that is one of the reasons why people will often keep themselves really busy during the day and distracted, because it's uncomfortable to sit with the emotions that happen when they are still, when they stop, when they rest, or when they are sitting in the gap in between. So many people find it so uncomfortable just to stop and rest. And often it is because a lot of the emotions that have been suppressed over the years finally come to the surface. And you can be very good at pushing this away for decades. And everyone's got their different tolerance levels as to how long they can push something away for. Another example is that people often get asthma attacks when their head hits the pillow, or they can get panic attacks. And often these are a manifestation of emotionally stressful states that have been suppressed. It's not the fact that sleep is bad. We know that sleep isn't bad for us. It's actually really good for us. But it's as soon as they stop, everything comes to the surface. So sitting in the gap, resting, stopping, this is all feminine energy. And that's why we need the balance, so that we can go and we can push, but then we also compensate with an equal, if not more, amount of rest. And I love pulling on different stories, and this came up in Release today, is what if I'm working full-on shifts, many like 12-hour days over a 4-week period? What do I do? And whenever someone is going through a really stressful period or a very busy period where they've got to work to a deadline, I say that your self-care has got to go up. Your self-care is more that yin, that feminine space that allows you to process the really busy, full-on workload that you have. So life constantly needs to adjust according to what is going on. When you have emotions or grief or different events that come into your life, it's about being adaptable and flexible. So back to the dreams, the nightmares and the night terrors. Dreams, if they're cyclical, nightmares and night terrors, is that this really comes back to processing your emotions. And this doesn't mean emotions that are linked to the symbolism or the story or the literal meaning of the dream, the nightmare, or the night terror. It's just about emptying your cup out and learning how to process your emotions. So I know I often talk about this and I don't go into much detail about processing emotions because I normally teach this. I will pop a link in the podcast notes leading you to a broken down masterclass that gives you a very simple form, but still very powerful form of being able to release your emotions. And then, of course, there are many variations of this that I actually go through in the live release course. But it is enough for you to get a bit of a taster as to how to start processing your emotions, particularly when you get irritable with people in your life, or there are past situations with people that trigger you. So when people come to me with this kind of issue, then I will say, look, let's just start emptying your cup out and processing your emotions. And they will find that they start to get the deeper, more restful sleep. Because when we're dreaming, and definitely when we have the nightmares and night terrors, we're not getting that deep, restful sleep that helps us feel rejuvenated and revived for the next day. So it is about emptying the cup out, processing emotions. And then what happens is that maybe the episodes of these dreams, nightmares, and night terrors become fewer and further in between, or they become less intense. And I've just seen it work over and over again. I don't think it's necessarily about going to a sleep clinic or taking different pills, because the body is trying to process experiences it's had and emotions. And the only time it can do it for some people is when they're resting, when they're in their feminine space, and when they have stopped. So if this is you, just consider what has happened in your history. Are you ignoring it? Or maybe you're not ignoring it, you just don't know what to do about it or who to go to see. And is there some emotional processing you could do to improve this metabolism and start to empty your cup out? There are some people who, when they start releasing, their dreams actually become more vivid. And this is a whole other topic, but there is a particular, I use Ayurvedic doshas, but there is a particular dosha, if you're very predominant in it, you will naturally be a very vivid dreamer. But sometimes people get a little bit scared about how vivid and symbolic their dreams are. And yeah, it's normal for the dreams to ramp up for some people when they start to do this deeper work, not necessarily just the emotional processing that I talk about, but any sort of therapy that you do, is that your nervous system can go a little bit haywire. And it is completely normal, but that's why it's important to work with someone who can guide you, help you understand what's going on in your body, and help you feel safe. Now, before I wrap this up, I also wanted to add one interesting thing about magnesium and the supplement that a lot of people use to help them get a restful night's sleep, because it is relevant for especially dreams, vivid dreams, and nightmares. So I do love magnesium, and you'll hear it touted everywhere because it's involved in 300 biochemical reactions in the body, and it's great for the nervous system and your bones, and it can help you get a peaceful night's sleep, which is very true. And I love it, and I will often take it. My husband takes it, and he notices when our daughter was waking us up a lot in the middle of the night, he would actually find it easier to fall back asleep. But there are many different forms of magnesium available on the market, either via your practitioner or over the counter. And one of the cheap forms, which I think is great if it works for you, and it is the one that I use, is magnesium citrate. I love magnesium citrate. It is a lot more economical and affordable for a lot of people. However, it is the one that people can have side effects to. So if magnesium citrate works for you and you don't get any of the reactions that I'm going to talk about, then keep taking it. And just note that if the magnesium you're taking is magnesium citrate, maybe this is going to create awareness around why you're reacting this way. There are other forms that usually you can take which won't trigger your body off into these reactions. So the main reaction is loose stools or diarrhea. And that's because it absorbs water into the gut. So if you get loose stools or diarrhea and you've just started taking magnesium citrate, then it's probably not appropriate for you. And sometimes it can be really uncomfortable. The other little adverse reaction or side effect people can have, and why it relates to this podcast, is that they can get extremely vivid dreams or they can get nightmares. So if this is a new thing for you and you're freaking out and you're like, why the hell am I dreaming this stuff? And why am I having nightmares? I'm sleeping way worse than I was before I had this magnesium. It could be that you're taking magnesium citrate. So if you get the loose stools, the diarrhea or discomfort taking magnesium citrate, or you get vivid dreams that are not pleasant, because some people do enjoy them, but you're usually not getting a deep restful sleep if you're having vivid dreams. If you get the vivid dreams or the nightmares and you've just started taking magnesium citrate, or you can't work it out and you go and look at your magnesium and it's magnesium citrate, then it's a good idea for you to change. And the form that I normally recommend, and of course, if this is new for you, you need to check in with a practitioner, is magnesium biglycinate. There are several forms of magnesium, but it's magnesium biglycinate. I do find it tends to be about double the price. You can get these over the counter in most places. Otherwise, it would be available via a practitioner, like some osteoids or chiros have supplements, but a lot of naturopaths and herbalists you will find will stock this, or a pharmacy can order it in for you. So if this is new for you and you've started taking magnesium, then I hope I've created some awareness as to why you might be having some reactions. If you can tolerate magnesium citrate, keep taking it. It's the form that I take. If you are reacting, then change to a magnesium biglycinate, or talk to your practitioner about this, because it is really nice for the nervous system and it can help reduce very, very, very mild anxiety. And it can help you just drop into that deep restful state, that feminine space that is required so that your body can process everything that it encounters throughout the day. So thank you for listening. I am always open to suggestions of anything else that you would like to hear about. Otherwise, I just move week to week with whatever comes up and what I feel to share with you. Earlier on, I shared the celebrations around the practitioner stuff that I've put out there. So I will put the links for the Pivot series, A World of Possibility, into the notes, and you can go ahead and purchase that if you're a practitioner or a healer that is curious about the online space. I share my journey completely transparently down to the income and some of the big shifts that I've made transitioning full-time into the online space from being a practitioner. And then the very cool Emerge Mastermind that's kind of just been happening in the background. We have started, if you are a practitioner or a healer who really is serious and wants support moving into the online space or making the online space work better for you if it's not already, then you can click on the application link and have a look at the website to see if it's your thing. The way I teach business is with intuitive strategy, emotions, and a whole heap of energetics. So you can be a conventional practitioner, alternative practitioner, but I definitely want your mind to be open to help you live and work the life that you desire. And then lastly, in relation to what I shared about dreams, nightmares, and vivid dreams, nightmares, and night terrors, is that if you've got this going on and magnesium's not the issue for you, then it could be that your emotional cup is too full and you want to process your emotions. We are already halfway through the release course, which I run live and offer support on an individual basis to anyone who asks for it. So the next one is proposed for August. But if you can't wait, then there is a little masterclass available that teaches you the very simple version, which is, it's simple and it's not simple. As in, like, it is the version that I teach in the Release live course, but it's just that there are many variations to it. But it is definitely enough to get on with. And I've had great feedback from people who have gone on to do this masterclass. It gives you a good understanding of why we store emotions, how we store them, all the fascinating ways they release, and how to actually do the process, which is a verbal dialogue process. And there are prompts. You can grab a notebook and take some notes, but it's pretty clear. So I will put the link for the Release Masterclass into the notes for you, and you can go ahead and grab that, start processing. And I look forward to sharing with you more on the podcast in the future. Bye. Thanks for learning with me on the Art of Listening to Your Body podcast. If you like what you've heard, I would love if you could rate, review, and share with your friends. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. My handle is The Art of Listening to Your Body. If you're interested in working with me, I offer online courses for the general public and trainings for practitioners, therapists, and coaches. I also open limited one-to-one coaching spaces throughout the year. If you would like to find out more, head to my website, drjinong.com.